Welcome to the 7-Figure Blueprint, where we share real-life stories of contractors just like you and dive deep into the steps they took to grow their business so you can too. My name is Garrett Bake. I've worked with hundreds of contractors, helping them scale their business to 7 figures and beyond. Welcome back to the 7-Figure Blueprint. We're here with a couple special guests, Angie and Ryan Snow. They are the owners of Western Heating, Air, and Plumbing. I got to make sure I grab that in there. Right. They've been in business for 18 years, and they are, we'll call them 8-figure earners. And we're going to talk about their story, how they got to where they're at today and what it is that they're doing. But ultimately, what I really want to get out of this selfishly is their story, right? So there's very few couples that work in the trades together. There's very few couples that work in construction together. So it's kind of one of those, how did they do it? But without further ado, Angie and Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Garrett.
Thank you so much. So fun to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys could be here. I kind of want to get started how it got started, right?
Yeah.
Some contractors, they grew up in the trades, or they grew up, my grandfather was a carpenter, and so I was swinging a hammer or whatnot. How did it start for you guys? How did you get into this field?
Yeah, it was my fault. Sort of. I actually going to blame my brother. He was a coal miner, and he was caved in on and almost died. Wow. When he was trying to heal from that, he's like, well, how do I keep working my hands and, build this living down in Farron where we grew up? And so he decided to get into heating and air conditioning. I was in high school. We started having the conversation of, when you're done with whatever, why don't we come back to Farron and start up our own business together. And I love my brother. We couldn't farm very well together. And so that didn't quite work out, but he was the one that got me into the trades, and that happened back in 1997. I was a duct cleaner for a company based out of Provo, and that was the beginning of it. So a long time ago.
So you started duct cleaning. How long did you do that before you got into heating and air?
So the company that I was with, that's what they did, heating and air conditioning, and I was only a duct cleaner for just a few months, and I was going to the apprenticeship school at night. So I told my boss, it's like I had actually never seen a furnace or air conditioner before I got into this. We had a Stokermatic fireplace and a swamp cooler on the house there in the farm, and I didn't know any of it. So he got me into moved me into an install helper. Did that for about a year. Moved into maintenance, service, moved to different companies, sales, install. I mean, I did everything at different points in my career. It didn't take very long before I started moving up.
Okay. And so how soon, long after or before, did you guys meet?
We were actually married in 97. So we met at Snow College. The Snows met at Snow. And we got married shortly after. I couldn't figure out where to go to finish my degree. I was going into education. And he said, well, UVU has my program. So I said, well, you go to UVU, I'll go to BYU. I got my teaching degree, and he was working there. So he worked in HVAC. That was what paid our bills, and with my teaching salary for a little bit.
So this is interesting, right? Because ours is a very similar path. My wife,
right.
Being a teacher and me working as well. So there's a lot of couples that don't start out and saying, hey, let's go in this thing together, right? It's usually, don't take this the wrong way, it's usually the guy with the crazy dream, right? And the wife who's like, well, I guess we're stuck. Like, I'm going to support him or figure out a way to make this happen. So, I mean, there's got to be some ups and downs like there is for everybody else. How many years did you guys experience these up and downs of just being an employee before you're like, hey, Angie, I got this really weird and crazy idea. I think I want to be an owner.
Yeah, I think it started for me when I was going for my bachelor's degree. I was doing some research, and, I was looking at one of the papers I wrote was chasing kind of a corporate dream, moving up the ranks, working for a big national company, which the very first company I worked for was a Service Experts, huge company, all over the country and up in Canada. And the other side of it was the entrepreneur route. And I think that through that course of looking at some of the competition, thinking, gosh, some of these guys, I know I can beat them. I can do this. And then experience that big corporate world eventually led me down that path of, I want to do this. I want to be an entrepreneur, and I want to buy my own company or start my own company back then. And so there were quite a few years there from the duct cleaning days that, I worked through this, and it wasn't, we bought Western Heating and Air in 2007. So, there was quite a few years there of trying to work for others, and it just, it wasn't the right fit for me. And then I had to make a big, compelling pitch to Angie to get her in on it. So.
Yeah. So Angie, from your perspective, because I don't think we talk about this enough, like, my wife, heart of gold, and I love the fact that she's along for the ride. But what was it like for you? Or was it like a one-day thing? He's just like, hey, I think I need to do this, or was this like a gradual? He's just kind of like dropping comments.
Well, the funny thing is I talk about this a lot when I go out and speak to other contractors, because I was at a point in our marriage and in our lives where we had 3 little kids. He was working for this big service experts company, and I could see him come home every day just like stressed. They assigned him to a failing company and asked him to turn it around. And I could see the stress, and I was like, this does not look fun. I do not know why you're doing this, but he had a lot of success. He went and he applied it, and he turned that center around. And I think, I just watching him go through that, I knew what he was capable of. And so when he came to me and said, I think we could do this on our own, I'd seen him do it with this company, and I was like, let's go for it. Like, I'm here. I'm a mom. I've got 3 little kids. I really don't want to go back to teaching school. Let me stay at home. I will help you. What do you need me to do? Like, he's like, just answer the phones and help me with like the books. It'll be simple. I'm like, okay, I got it. And so, and at first, there was a lot of learning curves, learning the numbers, the payroll, the accounting side of it. And we bought from a really amazing couple who were very, very, very careful with their books, very careful with their business. And so they trained me really, really good. I'm so grateful that we bought a business from people who already had those ethics and that drive to build a very clean, strong business. So it helped me learn how to do that side of the business, and I really appreciated that. So a lot of different little things kind of led up to that, where it just felt like a really good move for us.
Yeah, I love that. I kind of want to get into that transition a little bit more, because I think it's super important, right? You got one of 2 options. You're going to start out on your own, or you're going to buy an existing company. Now, sometimes people go down the path of a franchise, and that's a conversation for a different day. But you guys bought an existing company. Why did you decide to do that versus start on your own?
I felt like the big advantages were that there was a customer base there. And what I've learned over the years, a lot of companies, smaller companies, they're just not great at working that customer base. And what I mean by that is just the continual communication, having a process. Your technicians go in, they know exactly how to do a maintenance call, they know how to do a service call, they have those conversations. And it just felt like a huge advantage for us. And so this company had started back in 1995, had been around for quite a while, fiercely loyal customer base. Like Angie said, Rod and Carol Black were the original owners, just amazing people. So there were so many things that just lined up and said, this is a great company. We had a good deal with each other. 2007 made it a little bit tricky because we had the Great Recession hit in 2008. So that first year was amazing. I couldn't believe the numbers we were putting up. And it was just a matter of taking the exact same employees he had. We taught them a process. They went out and they executed, and we just took off. So, and then having that customer base going through that recession was huge for us. We could reach out to them. We could send them letters. We could send them emails. We could talk to them, and they carried us through some really tough times. And so that was what was really appealing for me. Like I knew my training, my background. If I could get in the door with these customers, we'd be just fine. Starting from scratch, you just don't have that. Some advantages the other way, you get to build it exactly how you want it. But for me, it was really important to have that customer base to work.
Yeah. When this opportunity came to you guys, did you guys say, hey, let's take all of our life savings and dump it into this? You guys are like, hey, we're going to borrow some from Uncle Sam. Did you have an investor? Like, how did you guys end up doing it?
It was tough.
Yeah.
It was really tough. We had a house in California where we were living at the time that we were planning on selling and using the proceeds to make a down payment on the business. The house didn't sell. We didn't have the money to even make a down payment on the business. We were so blessed that Ryan's parents actually loaned us. In fact, they probably had to even get a loan. I don't even know how they had the money, but they gave us enough money to go put a down payment on the business. We were very blessed in that the owner did a owner financing situation with us where we could just make the payment to him and make payments until we had enough credit to actually go get a loan and actually pay him off. And it took a few years for us to get to that point. So we were just so blessed in this whole scenario of just having people step in when we needed them, especially with the financial state of America at that time. It was a mess. And so it took us a few years to kind of, I don't know, I still don't know how it happened. We were living off of credit cards for a couple months. It was not good. No savings.
It was pretty tight.
Scary.
Just before we had bought, I went out and got a book, How to Buy and Sell a Business. That's the title of the book. I had no idea what I was doing, right? But it talked about in there about having the owner finance, carry the note. Yep. And so it was really important to me. It was actually very strategic on, when I went and talked to him, I said, your numbers, I trust them as much as I can, but it's a big deal. And so it was one way to test their integrity and their honesty about how well they'd been running that company. Because why would you want to carry the note if it was, in a really, really bad spot? And so that was a big part of it. And they carried the majority of that. We had a 12-month deal. We would make those payments for 12 months, and then we would go get a loan from the bank, which we did. We paid them off, and it worked out perfectly.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's huge. I want to talk about that for a minute because there are people who have that opportunity in front of them. What would your, looking back in that situation, what would your advice be to somebody who's thinking about jumping on their own and possibly buying an existing business? Like, what are the things they should watch out for or look for?
I'm sure Ryan has a really great advice here. I think for us, like for me, never really having a background in business or education in business and not really understanding numbers or knowing what to look for, I wouldn't have even known where to start. And so if you're in that kind of scenario, I would find someone who is and someone that can mentor you and walk you through that process. We're very fortunate because Ryan had just been in that boat. I mean, that's all he'd been doing at this job was looking at numbers. How do I build the numbers? And so for him to be able to go and look at their actual financials and see how they're doing, he was able to then, negotiate a little bit better because he did have that understanding and knowledge. And so if you don't have that, find someone who does to walk you through it. That would be my advice.
That makes sense. So like a business broker kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's 100% great advice. And by the way, like if you're watching or listening, this goes for any aspect of your business. Like if you don't know what you're doing, find someone who does. Financial is huge. Mm-hmm. You talked about that. And man, that's a great hand to be dealt. The fact that they're willing to teach you, sit down and teach you and show you how to do it when you have no experience. But you're right. A lot of contractors get into this game and they're like, oh, money in, money in. You're like, it's not really how it works. So that's super important. Okay. So let's go back to this like transition period, right? So you're able to get a loan from your parents. You make the down payment and it's the proverbial now what? Right. And yes, I know you started digging into the processes and getting the guys out there and doing their thing, but there's this weird period where it's like credit cards are bust, right? What was that like for you guys and your relationship at that time?
Well, it was intense. We have pretty much always gotten along very well, but there was definitely an extra level of stress. Like Angie said, we had kids. We still needed to be mom and dad. We still needed to be husband and wife. And it was so difficult at first to draw that line of, okay, the business cannot be in every part of our personal life. And so we did quite a bit of coaching on this a while ago. We haven't done a bit for a little while, but we had to set up the parameters of, okay, we will take a spot in our kitchen, once we're getting dinner ready or whatever, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, we can talk shop, and then it's it. It's done, right, until tomorrow. So make sure it's important. Make sure you come into it really fast, say what you got to say, respond. Then it's mom and dad, it's husband and wife. And so it took a little while to learn that balance, but it was huge. Great thing. And Angie came up with the whole concept because she knew we had to set those parameters up.
Yeah. That's huge.
And we also had to, I think another thing that became a little bit of a pain point for us was figuring out each other's roles in the company. At first I was just like, I'm here to help you. What do you need help with? And he's like, help me with the phones, help me with the invoicing, help me with payroll. And I'm trying to do that. But at the same time, I see some of the things in our marketing not working, and I'm seeing opportunities that we're not quite doing, but I know I can't nag him about that because he already has so many other pressures on the operations and what's going on. And he's got the degree, so I just need to trust him and let him do his thing. And meanwhile, I'm over here with a master's in math education, so let me run the numbers. I should be able to do this really great, right? But pretty soon we found each other like, we're in the wrong roles. Like, you know the numbers inside and out for business. Why don't you pay attention to the numbers? And I'm the school teacher that has this very creative mind. Why don't you let me try the marketing for just a little bit? And so it took us a minute to figure out which roles would really match our individual strengths. And then once we had those roles, like, trust each other. And we actually had to have a business coach teach us this. Like, if I was nagging him about his role or not doing something, that wasn't good for our relationship. But when we had a third-party coach that could hold us accountable, now we're working together as a team to report to our coach. And our coach was keeping us on track with different things we needed to do. And did we both fail in different areas and different roles? Yes. But at that point, instead of nagging each other, we used that as an opportunity to lift each other up, believe in each other, and get focused again, and have our coach kind of help us guide us through that. So having that third-party coach, and we've had a variety of coaches throughout building our business, started with a basic business coach, the fundamentals of, do you have a mission statement, a vision statement? Do you have job descriptions? Do you have systems and processes? Something very basic to that, to then getting individualized coaches for marketing, for finances, for leadership, for all those different areas in our business. But for us, having a coach was, I feel like, what actually made us stronger as a couple, because now we were able to harness our strengths and report that, that accountability line went straight to the coach instead of to each other.
Yeah.
That's huge. Let me go back to this because you kind of brushed over it, which I know because you guys have talked about this a lot. So I'm like, let's dig into that.
Yeah, dive in.
It's so important at the beginning that honestly, you are the jack of all trades, right? You are the marketing department. You are the sales department. You are fulfillment, right? You're doing everything. And so it was at the beginning, hey, what do I need to do to help you out? Yeah. And you're like, do this, right? While you're trying to be out in the field. So you get to a point, and for you guys, it was different than, other companies, but you get to a point where you're like, hey, we may not have the right person in the right seats for where it is that we want to take it. What's that conversation like? To finally admit that, like, hey, you know what? Like, your strengths are over here, mine are over here. We should probably do the switch.
It was the cow postcard.
Yeah.
Oh, pray tell.
Very specific, huh?
I was like, man, she just right out with it.
Yeah. So my concept, we came out with these postcards, and things were tough. We did not have a lot of money to waste. Like, the marketing had to hit, and we had a milk cow on a card, and it said, "Holy cow, it's spring already," or something like that. Mm-hmm. And we sent that out, and I sold
$10,000. We spent $10,000 on this postcard,
which was a lot back then.
That was a lot today.
Yeah, it was not good. So we sold one air conditioner off of it, which didn't cover the $10,000. It was a complete loss at that point. Angie already knew. I had no more pride. I was just like, we're going to lose here if we don't do something. So she made up my idea, right? She's brilliant that way. Hey, why don't you take over marketing? Let me run the numbers. Like Angie said, I love the numbers, the KPIs, everything. That's what I get fired up about. And so that was it. Yeah, that postcard broke my back and said, okay, I am not a marketing person. So.
Well, and I think at that point also, I think it's really important to point out that we had joined a best practices group with a lot of different coaches and consultants, and we had other contractors that we were able to network with and learn from. And, some of the things that they were doing, I was like, that sounds really cool. We should think about implementing that. And so we had now this whole new network of ideas and things that we could start incorporating that I was really drawn to the marketing side of it. And I said, give me a shot. Let me dive a little bit deeper here. Let me get a little bit extra coaching. And this is when online marketing was just getting big as well, back in the early, 2012, 13. And so getting reviews was a big thing, and making sure your website had all of the extra things. And so it was something that I was actually really interested in. And so I got extra coaching and took very pointed classes on becoming better and learning what I was doing. And so it was just kind of a natural transition, but we both kind of had to swallow our pride and say, okay, how about we try something new and still support each other. But we had that extra level of guidance now that we didn't have before.
Yeah. I think that's super important. Now, we may have skipped over it slightly with an accelerated timeline. But you were a stay-at-home mom. Well, you were a teacher, and then you're a stay-at-home mom, and now you're supporting him, and then he needs your help. Like, at what point did you make the transition? Like, hey, I'm working full-time on this business.
It wasn't long after we bought the business. In fact, he said, I can just take the phones out in the field with me. I've got it. You just stay at home and get the paperwork done. And after one day, can you just please answer the phones?
I couldn't do it.
And I enjoyed it, and I loved it, but it did become a thing where I was noticing I'm putting my 1-year-old in front of the TV so I can get work done. And that doesn't feel like a good mom. And so, at this point, it's like if we're really going to do this and do it the right way and still keep family first, like we had decided, that was always the goal. Family's going to be first. And what we're doing needs to support our family, not tear it apart. I'm going to need some help. And phones was one of the first things we did. We needed to get the business out of my front room and into an actual office. And so taking little baby steps like, okay, let's get an office building. Let's get a babysitter 2 days a week. Let's just little baby steps like that to help us start to scale and grow, but still keep tabs on our family and make family important.
Yeah, I love that. So you walked into an existing company, so you had existing employees. But as business owners, what was your first hire?
Another technician.
Yeah,
we
hired more of a designated installer. Everybody that we had was cross-trained, so they could do service, they could do install. And we started to have some success, so we hired a designated installer. That was his job. Yeah.
I think we should mention at the time it was Ryan and I and four technicians. So that was the size of our business.
Yeah.
So we started hiring more people for the field, and then
Which overwhelms the office.
Which overwhelmed the office.
Yeah.
So then I needed to hire 2 part-time CSRs, and I would focus on more of the admin and HR work. And then I think the next big hire was a salesperson.
We tried a full-time salesperson. The most terrifying hire I ever made. Things were so critical back then, and I got it wrong. The guy we hired couldn't sell. We struck out a lot. Had to make a pretty quick decision on that, and it was back on me doing the sales for a while. But that one hurt. That one was pretty scary. Would definitely do that again. I think going back, when you look at where we were, trying to get a lot better at vetting people, better at interviewing, better at really digging deep, getting some help. Hey, maybe a sales guy. Can you interview this guy and just see, what he really is about? Vetting our vendors, those type of things would have been huge. That was something I would do different day one if I had to. So,
what would you say about why hiring a salesperson is so difficult?
They sell, right? So you sit down with them and they sell, and you think, my gosh, this guy's amazing. We're going to hire him. And so you do. And then so I do have to give them a little bit of Western back then, we were not real clean on our sales process, right? We had a menu, but as far as an actual process to go out and do, it wasn't that. It was, here's your sheets, go do your best. And so that first one we hired, it was a big mess. Didn't work out. I ran it for a while. Thought, okay, we're going to try it again. Ended up hiring a guy from outside the HVAC world. He sold fences for a living. And that one worked out very well. But he was smart enough that he went and studied on his own. So he found resources. He found trainers inside the industry. We bought into some of it to give him some resources to go through. But it was him having the desire, us getting a little bit better that brought it together. But yeah, I think that's where it all just kind of went wrong. We didn't have a lot of support for them. Wasn't the right person to begin with. It was a train wreck.
So you failed there, which we know the business is just a series of less and less failure. But when did you think you got it right? Because you obviously had to go back to it. So what did you change about it? How did you finally get it right?
I think the onboarding was a big difference maker. So we had kind of revisited. We started to meet more people that were very successful in the trades. Like Angie said, we were part of a best practice, so we'd reach out to them and get some advice. And so that helped out a lot. So when he showed up, our second guy outside the industry, it was like, okay, you don't get to sell anything for 30 days. I'm just going to carry it. You're going to go learn from installers. You're going to ride with technicians. You're going to learn this thing. I believe you can sell. Had a big ticket in the fence world, doing really well there. So it was more of a just kind of, okay, we're gonna restart this thing, and that's what we did the second time. In 30 days, he couldn't sell anything, and after that, he was finally ready, and he went out and started being successful right away.
Yeah, I think that's huge because you both kind of talked about it. One of the things that I find that a lot of contractors struggle with is the process, right? And not understanding that everything in business is a process. Hiring and training is a process. Mm-hmm. And so the better you get at filtering on the front end, i.e., hiring slow, and then on the back end, firing fast, the more success you'll have. What would you say about this? And I'm pretty strong feelings about this. What would you say about running a business based on data versus running a business based on feelings?
Gosh, you have to have both. I feel like especially now that I work for Service Titan and I'm so keen on data, and actually, a little further down in our story, you'll hear that the data is really what helped us scale. But at the time, without the data and without having accurate data, a lot of it was our feelings. A lot of it was, what is your gut telling you? And what I've learned, even talking to our data analysts at Service Titan, is subconsciously we're collecting data. Mm-hmm. We're collecting data from other people's body language, mm-hmm. from words. We're collecting that. And sometimes that feeling that you have in your gut is just a whole bunch of subconscious data that you can't put words to yet.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. What about you?
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards data. I would say for me, the emotional side of it comes in when you're being the leader. So you have the management side, it's the data we're driving. You got your KPIs. It's how you hold your people accountable. You have to put a number to their performance, or you're not going to go anywhere. But as soon as the leadership hat comes out, people are struggling. They're down. They can't figure out, Ryan, why are you making me hit these numbers? Emotionally, let's talk about it, right? We're a family. There's a lot of people that depend on my decisions every day. There's a lot of people that depend on your decisions every day. And so you start to tie into that side of them to get them to see a bigger picture, that it's not just about you out there running a call or whatever you're doing. There's a lot of people that depend on you doing your best. But yeah, I think as far as scaling and growing, it has to be data for me. So,
love it. I love seeing the both sides here, and it's interesting because I actually believe it's data led, but then feelings come on the back end, right? You can't lead with feelings because the truth is, feelings can mislead you, especially you're bringing your own feelings and emotions to the table. So it's always data first, but then I'm a very emotional person, but I got to make sure I'm looking at the data first. Like, what is the data telling me? Yeah. And then let's bring emotion to the data versus let's try and bring data to the emotion. And you're just like, this doesn't make any sense.
Which I think is really interesting, especially even as a couple. Like, he's always been a data-focused person. That's just who he is. And I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very relationship. We've got to build relationships with customers. We're building relationships with our team. Everything's about relationships. And the hard part about that is if you only let your emotions lead you. I once had an office manager who had some hard things happening with her health and her family, and sure, go take some time off, but then after like a month of her not coming back and me doing all these things for her, it's like okay, but at what point is this she taking advantage of my emotions?
Yeah.
Right. And we've had other employees that have done that as well. And so, yeah, you have to, emotions are important from a leadership perspective, but you also have to not let your emotions get you in big trouble.
Yeah. Love it. That's a great example. Okay. Let's talk about like true growth, right? So you bought the business. What was the business doing annually when you bought it?
We were about $1 million a year.
Okay. So you're right at 7 figures, which is great. And 2008 hit. And so I'm guessing you kind of hovered, around that mark for a few years. What do you think the big catalyst to growth was?
100% for us, it was sales. Needed to get much more serious about sales. Operationally, we were always pretty good. We knew our KPIs, we knew our labor rates, we knew what average ticket should be, closing percentages, blah, blah, blah. Super exciting things, right? But the sales team, specifically the full retail salespeople going out there trying to get things for us, that's where I missed the mark. Too lenient, good people, emotional. We're getting deals done here and there, but you start to get outside and you see what other competitors are doing in the same market. And the biggest difference I can see is their sales team, they're just crushing it, right? So that held us back from growth for a long time. So that's one thing I would change quickly to do it again. I would get more serious about the sales side of things. And there's a good way to do it that you can keep your integrity, you can make customers happy, and you provide so much for your workers.
And I think leading up to those, like what impacts the sales though, right? And so there are all those little things that we had to get in place to impact sales as well. Number one, focusing on our call center team. We focused on the call center team. Are you making each customer that calls in feel important and special and part of, making there's sales that happen even when the phone rings. And so helping our CSRs and our call center team be able to learn those skills and develop those skills that build relationships and build trust, because that converts to booked jobs. Mm-hmm. And then the next person in the funnel is our technicians, right? Making sure technicians go out with a consistent process. They're doing the same thing. They're building that trust. They're building connections, but also able to show with data, here's what the data says about your system, and this is what we recommend, and coming in with authority like that. So sales is important, but it's the whole team setting the sales up and having those sales skills also.
The process behind the sales. I love it. I love it. So when you guys got serious about selling, what happened with the company? What was the growth like?
So it took us, it was our third year, we were to get over the $5 million mark. So we ran right up to it. Year one, couldn't get it done. Year two, couldn't get it done. Year three, we finally got over that hurdle. And what I was trying to do was, I got to restructure everything. I got to hire people for this, and I need a sales manager for that. And I was completely wrong on all of it. What really needed to happen was taking who we had, kind of what Angie's saying, let's just make them better. Or let's go find field people, salespeople that can get us to that next level. Had we done that, we would have ran right through it. So once we got over that hurdle, we scaled up to 10 million pretty quick. Or we're gonna get over that hurdle this year by quite a bit. So, but it's been a pretty quick path getting over that, and really it's just coming down to just top performers. You set your prices right so you can afford health insurance and benefits and time off. And you start to bring in top-tier talent, and you don't need the overhead structure that I bought into before. It's just, no, we just need people to go out and take care of customers at a high level. And when you can do that, then the scale happens very fast.
I love that. Now, let's talk about, apparently with you guys, it's the people conversation, which I love, right? People are the catalyst, right? What would you say, compared to market rate, what you guys pay?
We're definitely on the high end. And I know that because we interview a lot of people. Even when we're not really looking for people show up at our door and say, hey, are you hiring? So the word is out. We don't have a big problem hiring people. So you sit down, you talk to them, you're here, you're there, and we're consistently quite a bit higher than our competitors out there. And so it's taken a lot of work. It's taken a lot of, for me to get over that internal, I don't know if we can charge that. You can, because you have an obligation to take care of people. As soon as you start hiring people, you got to take care of them, right? And so I think it's a very real number. We've got guys making 6 figure years. They're doing great. They earn it, and they're well worth it. But it's mostly just sitting down with our competitors and their employees and just like, geez, I can't believe how much you're doing for how little you're getting. Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. I love that. Because again, if you want the best, you got to pay for the best,
do.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's unique, again, about you guys is there's a big mindset gap that you have to overcome. And that's can I afford it? Can I afford this person? Can I afford this thing? And without realizing that you can't afford not to.
Yeah.
Right? You're competing with everybody else because they do. They talk, they shop, right? And they're looking around okay, where's the good places to go? And you guys have been around the game long enough. There's a lot of companies that get bought out by private equity, and what ends up happening to their employees? They scatter. They scatter because what happens? The culture has changed. The compensation has changed, right? The feeling around the business has changed, right? And I kind of want to talk a little bit about that with you guys because you guys are in that game right now, right? So talk, again, at a very high level, what made you decide to get into that game of hey, we can bring in some people and maybe some money and stuff and make this move faster than we could ever do it by ourselves?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to talk about some of those things that we did, but I will tell you, I want to go back to what you said about mindset and the mindset around your value and feeling like you can charge these kind of prices, because that was an obstacle for us for a little bit. How do we increase prices? A lot of our coaches add 10% to your prices, add 10% to your prices. And so it took us a little bit to get up there to be one of the more expensive companies, because there's the mindset that I have to be the cheapest to get the work, or there's the mindset that I'm providing a value that equals this high amount. And how do I build a team and a company and the service that we're offering at that value? So that was huge. And I think once we got to that level and we saw that we were consistently up there with the higher value companies, we weren't sure if we wanted to ever sell the business. We didn't know if one of our kids would want the business, but we wanted to build value in the business regardless. Not knowing what our exit plan was, just knowing eventually we'll exit and we're going to build a business that is worth a lot of value. So when opportunity comes, we're ready to do that. Part of that was building the culture, the people, the processes, all of those things, having the right tools in place. I think I mentioned before, once we put ServiceTitan in place, we had real-time data at our fingertips, and we were able to make decisions so much faster to help us pivot or move or change in our business. And just little things like that, the value was there now. The value in our business was there. And we had a company that was very reputable, a great company. People, like Ryan said, we've never had a hard time hiring. People are coming to us because they want to work for us. We have really great loyal customers, a great membership base of people that want us to work on their equipment annually. So we did a lot of different things that we felt like would build and add to the value of our business, so that if that opportunity ever came, we were there and we were ready.
So that opportunity came. What did you guys decide to do?
Yeah, so Angie, she went ServiceTitan full-time in 2020, and I'll give you just kind of a long history. Well, not a long history, but a long time ago. I think I was an install helper at the time, and I was talking with my general manager. He was the previous owner of Royden Heating and Air Conditioning that was merged into Service Experts, big national company. And he was always so open and transparent with me. I love the guy. And one day we're just chatting. He's like, Ryan, you'll never see multiples like this again, talking about selling his business. He didn't give me any numbers or anything. I don't know what the multiple was. I'm guessing a 2, maybe a 3. It was a long time ago.
The late 90s.
It was, yeah. And that always stuck with me for some reason. I'm just like, okay, multiples, I don't know what any of that means, but, it sounds good. So things really started to ramp up in the trades in 2020. And I had a lot of friends, and they were selling, and they were getting deals done. And so I was pretty intrigued with it. Our kids were in a spot still Didn't look like there was going to be a whole lot of interest there. They want to do different things. So, like Angie said, we built a company that had value. There was something there, and so we ended up partnering with a friendly group. It's a small private equity firm, which we really, really like. We were their fourth acquisition. They let us keep our culture. So I think we could have got a bigger deal someplace else, but we were in this for a long-term game. We still have ownership in that group, and it's been awesome. It's been so good to be part of it. We've got help. We've got really smart people. Angie was relieved because when she went to Service Titan full-time, she was Western part-time, trying to help out where she could, but she was busy, and it was kind of me, trying to run day-to-day operations. And so it ended up working out great for us. Great group to be part of. Angie could focus on bigger things. She had a lot of goals and ambitions and things that she wanted to do inside the trade that she just couldn't do inside of Western. And so, yeah, it ended up working out great for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. You guys are at a point right now where you're just taking advantage of the opportunity that's there, right? Continuing the culture, continuing the focus on the processes and the people and the systems, which sounds really cool, right? Until you're the guy that's doing $250 a year. It's you and one guy in one van, and you're just kind of hustling and grinding. Mm-hmm. So looking back, if you guys were to change anything about how you started or what you did when you started, what would that be? And I want to ask each of you. So we'll start with you, Angie.
I think looking back, I'm very grateful for the training that I got on the back end side of the business and how to run really clean books, how to do a clean payroll. How I was never worried about filing taxes wrong or I had such great training on that, but I really was hungry for just more business education. I really wish I would have had maybe a little bit more. I know once you're in the trenches, that's the best education. And every time we made one of those mistakes you talked about, our favorite saying was, well, that was an expensive education. And we spent a lot of money on really dumb mistakes. But those are the mistakes that help you learn and grow. And I think something we did do really well is when we would learn from coaches or other contractors, we would go back and take action. We would implement. And it looks like a big, scary, hard thing to get to be this size of a business. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is your business. You can get there, but it just takes a little bit of action every single day. And so we make mistakes, we go back, we regroup. So I think if anything, I would have maybe got a coach or a best practice group, something that I could have started learning right away instead of kind of struggling for those first couple of years. It was tough because we didn't know what we didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. Ryan,
yeah, and I would kind of build on that. I think I would start with for the small guy out there, you're the bottleneck, right? You're trying to control everything, but you're also trying to grow, and it's a really, really difficult spot to be in. So I would tell you, you've got to understand your numbers, and you need to know them better than your CPA. Don't just hand it over to an accountant and think everything's going to work out. You have got to know exactly what your cost of goods are, your overhead, and those type of things. And here's why. It gives you the power and the ability to hold people accountable. So I mentioned before, working with vendors, we hired a lot of people, experts. We will get you all the clicks, we'll do all these things. It didn't happen. We spent a lot of money on people that proclaimed to really be the ones, and they weren't. And so trying to pivot and move on that faster could have saved us a lot. Better interviewing up front, referrals, those type of things. Because when you're that small, you have to outsource things. You need help with marketing. You need help with sales. Being part of groups, best practices, those type of things are really, really a big deal. So I'd highly recommend all those things. You'll pick up a lot of good ideas. You meet a lot of people that have been there, done that. And so I would say you got to start with those numbers, make sure you understand those, and then that just opens up the path for so many different possibilities once you really understand it.
Love it. Okay, to wrap things up, the one question. Who wants to go first?
Angie.
Look at that.
Oh my gosh.
So he's got more time to think about it. Okay, so here's the question. You're starting over.
Yes.
Okay, and you're starting at zero. Mm-hmm. The only thing you have is $1,000 in your pocket. What are you doing with that $1,000? You still have your mindset. You still have the skill set that you have now.
I've got the mindset,
but
the
you've
skill
only got $1,000. What are you doing with that $1,000?
I love this. I am going to. I was going to say marketing because I need leads, right? But no, I'm going to do some guerrilla marketing because I know how to do a lot of marketing that I don't have to spend money on. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to start building some relationships. I'm probably going to join like a chamber of commerce or something and use that as a membership fee and start meeting people because people are your gold. I'm going to go start meeting people and those people will help me start to scale my business.
People are your gold. That's gold. Remember that. All right. Now you got to follow that up, Ryan.
Yeah, she crushed it. I think that it's kind of right back to what we did with our technicians. It's getting in the door. And so the cool thing now where big companies have no advantage is social media. We've got some really good things at Western, those type of things. But when I watch these marketplaces and you look at these local groups, they are absolutely ran by the small guy. Mm-hmm. So you have to get into those. You got to sponsor some ads. You got to focus on those things. And so that's where I would put my money and resources as well as, and especially Facebook. I would try to be the guy that people just continually recommend. Hey, I've got an air conditioning problem. Well, you got to call Ryan. That's your guy. So that's where I would put all my efforts is right there. Like Angie said, guerrilla marketing. It's a small thing. But once that starts to take off, you'll be just fine. You can scale from there.
I will tell you, when we were building our business, we made one relationship at a bank that has turned into hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue for us. One relationship. Mm-hmm. And so you just never know what the power of one is, and taking time to build those relationships, because that one relationship at the bank got us tons of bank contracts and tons of work with just the bank. And so, let alone other referrals that they've given us. So there's a lot of power in just taking time for people.
I love it. I call it shaking hands and kissing babies.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the best way to do it. All right. So as we kind of wrap things up, I know you guys are more than willing to help other people out. In fact, you've helped other contractors over the years. If someone had any specific questions for you, they want to reach out to you, how would you recommend that they do that?
Yeah, give us a, you can head over to our website. We have snowbusinesscoaching.com. Or you can just look us up on LinkedIn, Facebook, Angie and Ryan Snow. We're there. Send us a message. We love helping others because so many people have helped us.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for sharing your time. And again, if you're paying attention here, pay attention to not just the relationship, how to make the relationship work, but how to make the business and the relationship work, which is key. All right, that's all we got for you guys. You know what time it is. It's time to get after it. 3, 2, 1. Off you go. Thanks for listening to the show. If you're a contractor doing at least $500K in revenue and still stuck wearing every hat, if your team exists but your systems don't, if cash shows up but clarity doesn't, and you don't know what to do next, go to billprosystem.com and book your free business breakdown. We'll show you why you're stuck and, more importantly, how you can break free. So go to billprosystem.com and schedule your free business breakdown today.